All over the South, voters were electing strong segregationists. Terry Sanford was very different from those other politicians, and perhaps more than anything, he was a politician with some real political courage.
North Carolina, in terms of the support that it gives its school system, in the terms of the performance, measures out somewhere in the bottom 10. Now,
the schools weren't very good, and that was going to mean a very dire economic future for North Carolina. So Terry had an audacious plan to improve education, mainly by increasing teacher pay, not a little bit, but a lot. And we didn't have the money to do it.
On the campaign trail, he was advocating for a sales tax that would fund education. So he gave an entire speech at the end of which somebody stood up and said, well, who's going to pay for all that? And he said, well, taxes, of course. And the entire crowd cheered. And he walked off the stage and looked at his campaign manager and said, can you believe it? And his campaign manager said to him, no, you don't understand. They thought you said Texas.
When he got to the State House, he had a very conservative, very traditional General Assembly. They weren't particularly interested in the kind of far-reaching ideas he had about education, about a lot of other things.
Have you been criticized at all for this attitude of putting education first?
Well, I've been criticized for a lot of things, but I don't think there's been much serious criticism for putting education first, because education will determine our advances in economic development, per capita income, and wholesome living, and everything else.
We knew what we were doing. We had a well-defined program that would lay the groundwork for future progress.
Tonight we must begin to swing wide the doors of the future to our children, for beyond the threshold lie the hopes and aspirations not only of our children, but all the world's children. Having concluded that we must take decisive steps for school improvement, and having concluded that we must have more money, the difficult decision is what sources will best distribute equitably the cost among all of the citizens of the state who will share in the benefit of the services provided. It is my recommendation that you remove all exemptions from the sales tax.
The opposition called it Terry's school tax. No legislature likes to raise taxes. They still don't, and it's even worse now than it was before. But Terry persuaded them to raise taxes, and it was a tax on food. That is, it was a tax extending the North Carolina sales tax to cover food.
Food, the very thing that everybody has to have. It would be if you were looking at what's fair and the right thing to do, it'd be the last thing you'd come to. It was the last thing he came to. But he came to it because it was the only thing that old conservative legislature would pass. Even getting that through took more skill and energy and hard work and determination and drive than you can imagine. He got the legislature to understand it was important for economic growth and jobs. That's the thing that really brings people together. You can get liberals and conservatives, all kinds of folks together on that.
I've been traveling about the state, visiting schools, and talking to students about what I hoped we could do in North Carolina to create the kind of jobs right here that can challenge you and give you as good a challenge as you get anywhere else.
When I asked the General Assembly, I pointed out to them that I can't put this tax in, that we've got to all put it in.
I do not come to you expecting popular acclaim for what I have to say. I do come to do my duty in full confidence that you in turn will do your duty.
It was politically terribly controversial, but he fought it through the legislature, and it enabled North Carolina to make the largest single increase in expenditures for education, K through 12 education, in its history. So you have a massive infusion of funds in public education. It's also not known very widely that Terry Sanford, during his administration, created a commission on higher education, which ended up creating the North Carolina system of community colleges and technical institutes.
He clearly recognized for many students, particularly those that had never thought they could ever go to a place like UNC Chapel Hill, that wasn't going to be their educational option. They needed something else.
North Carolina must say to the young people of the state, if you have the will and the skill, you can go to college.
We wanted to have this available in commuting distance of every student, every person in the state. I never, from then on, failed to say, if we need more money for the future of our children and their schools, I will have the courage to ask the legislature for increased taxes.